Now we're in the lead generation core skill area, but in particular, we're talking about today phone prospecting, right? Phone prospecting to, to generate leads. Now, what you have here, what I have here on the screen is by far the lead generation methods that, have been proven to work if you work them. And these methods really, they pretty much cover the vast majority of ways that, you can do this business as far as lead generation and do it well. So, but today we're specifically talking about the phone prospecting lead generation method. It's a highly effective method of lead generation, highly efficient because you can make a lot of phone calls right from your home or office. And from a time perspective, sort of in the middle, right? It's kind of, it doesn't take a lot of time, but it's not a low time commitment. About 2 hours a day, quite frankly, is the ideal, amount of time. If I had an ideal amount that I would share with you, 2 hours per day is that magic number if you can do it. Now, if you can only do one, that's better than nothing. You get the point. But 2 hours a day, if you can do phone prospecting consistently, oh boy, excellent results that you'll get. And from a lead quality standpoint, again, pretty good, pretty solid, kind of in the middle. And then how fast can you start generating leads from that method? Fast, right? Once you get set up and then you hop on the phones, it's all on you. You make the calls, you'll start getting leads. It's as simple as that. So with that being said, let's continue on and jump right into it. Now, here is the path to success. Again, I want to make sure you keep the big picture here. You can choose whatever method you want to generate leads or a combination of the methods, right? That's your choice. And it's going to be, based on your personality, your preference, and, your financial situation and all of that. The point is, you got to do something. Doing nothing is not an option, at least not an option if you want to build a real estate business. Okay. So the path to success, no matter which one of the methods you use, looks like this. You got to generate leads, number one, right? That's what we're talking about today. Because leads, that's what gives you the opportunity to have the conversations. I know it's real simple, guys, but people miss it. This is it. You got to start with the lead so you can have conversations with potential buyers and potential sellers. And it's from those conversations, that you get appointments. Conversations have give you the opportunity to get an appointment with a potential buyer or seller. Okay. And it's from those appointments that some of those people will turn around and end up being your clients. And it's then, because you have clients, that you have an opportunity to make commission income. That is it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the path. And you can't skip over that. You see, you get in this business and you're trying to make this business work for you, but you don't necessarily see the steps, the components. You can't skip over this. Everybody wants commission income. Absolutely. Who doesn't? I mean, you got in this business to help people and at the same time help yourself with more income. Okay, fine. But you just can't jump to number 5 here and just get your license and all of a sudden magically commission income just starts rolling in. No, it's a process. And that's why real estate, while it is very rewarding business, it's tough in many respects, but it's not undoable. You have to follow a path to success. And this is how it looks, guys. Leads, generate conversations. Conversation leads to appointments. Appointments leads to clients, and clients that you represent lead to commission income. Right. Just to tie it in a little bit more, right? Leads, conversation, appointment. You see, get the leads, have the conversations. Now, conversation leads to appointments, and that's where that leads you to that skill of presentation. Remember? That's one of our core principles, developing presentation skills. That's where you show those skills on the appointment with the buyer, on the appointment with the seller. You get it. And then that leads to some clients. And that leads us to our third core principle, representation. Now you have to represent the client that you have and do things in their best interest. Negotiate well for them, etc. And then and only then, again, you can expect to get commission income. That's the flow. That's the path. That's the path to success. Let's talk about phone prospecting then. All right. So, because that is the topic of the day, phone prospecting success. What does that look like? What are the components to phone prospecting? With phone prospecting, you have to start with a list. All right. Number one, you have to have a good list of people to call, names, email, phone, and the mailing address. Right? That's your basic information. You need to have that information, a list to call that has that information. Right? Now, once you have a good list, and everything starts with the list, guys. If you have a bad list, you're already off on the wrong track. Okay? Phone prospecting depends on having a good list, a list that has good phone numbers, good email addresses, and good mailing addresses, etc. Right? You got to start with a good list. Start with a bad list, you're done already. So, good list, first thing. Now, once you have a good list, you now need a good script. Got to have a good script. You got to know kind of what to say and when to say it when you're on the phone with a prospect. All right? So you need a good script. Now, once you have a good script, now you have to make the call. Now, you can make the call from your personal phone, your cell phone or desk phone. You can do that. But the best way to do it is to use a dialer software, and we'll get into that a little bit later here. But that's the really way you really want to do it. But if you couldn't do it that way, see, I'm all about don't let anything stop you. If you had to use your cell phone because of financial reasons, you couldn't do the dialer, pay for the dialer software, well, you do that. You use whatever resources you have. Just don't do nothing. Okay? But you got to have a way to call them. And the dialing software is the most efficient and best way to do that. Then it's a CRM, Customer Relationship Manager, right? Customer Relationship Manager, CRM. That's your database, right? You got to have a good database where you can basically store your prospects, your clients' information. That's there for easy retrieval. You can go search very easily and pull up who you want. You can filter through your data and just get to what you want when you need it. All right. And we'll get into that a little bit. You don't have to have anything so complicated with that as well. Okay. The basics do well. A lot of times, agents get into business and you get caught up and enamored with all of the bells and whistles that these particular software applications may come with. And the reality of it is, in many cases, you only use a small portion of the features in a particular software. And that's something to just kind of take with you, going forward. Don't get caught up in trying to use every single feature of every single application or software that you use. Take the part that you need to get the job done. Because I'm telling you, a lot of these companies sometimes seem like they build all these features in, just build all these features in, just trying to build value in the software. And I get that to a great extent, but sometimes it's just fluff. It's just extra this and extra that to get you distracted, really, at the end of the day, to where you get overwhelmed. And when you get overwhelmed, instead of doing something, you're confused. You usually do nothing. All right. So, and then the calendar. You need a calendar. Here's why. Phone prospecting. Make sure you get this. When you make contact with someone over the phone, most people you contact and talk to and engage with, they're not going to be ready at that moment to do business with you. And quite frankly, in the way we teach, that's not even the purpose of the call when we make the call. The purpose of the call when you're doing phone prospecting, in our philosophy, is to introduce yourself, for one, right? Just get your name out there, introduce who you are, and let people know you're in the business to help. And two, to just establish the relationship, just the beginnings of a relationship for follow-up later. That's the purpose of the call. is to identify and let them know you're in the business, and then to connect with them, provide them some value, let them know that you're here to be a resource. You know, you're not here, you're not just chasing commission, you're actually here to help people. And you're just trying to connect, and we can maybe talk and I can follow up with you later. That's really the premise, honestly, and how we go about phone prospecting. Now, others may have a different philosophy on that. Okay, so be it. You know, no problem there. Everybody has their own way. But what I know personally, and I know others feel the same, is rarely are you going to have anyone who's just ready to do business with you on the first contact. It's just not how this works. But if you can make contact with them, engage with them, show them quickly that you're here to be a help, a resource, and get some contact information from them, right? Email address and all that, so you can follow up later if you already don't have that in your system. That's what it's all about. Most of your success with phone prospecting is going to come from the follow-up activities that you do. It's going to be on the second call and beyond. Let me repeat that. Your success in phone prospecting will come from the follow-up, which is, to be quite frank with you, in all your lead generation methods, your success is really going to come from the follow-up. I can't stress that enough. And that's where many agents drop the ball. For those who do engage in phone prospecting or any of the other methods, they drop the ball with the follow-up. See, everyone kind of sort of wants to just be able to make one call or make one contact, and a buyer, a potential seller just says, yes, I've been waiting on your call. I'm glad you called. I'm ready right now. Take me to the closing table. It just doesn't happen that way. It doesn't happen that way. So therefore, that's why you need a calendar, because you're going to have a lot of follow-up to do. So you're going to need to put on your calendar the date and time to follow up with these potential buyers and potential sellers. All right. So these are your components right here if you want to have phone prospecting success. Now let's continue on a little bit here. Let's talk about the list. We're going to kind of walk through these components one by one. Let's talk about the list. What lists are we talking about here? Who can I call? Well, again, this list is not exhaustive. I mean, we could call various niches of people, and there are many other segments of the market that we could call. I want to make sure that's very clear. This list is not exhaustive. But this simple list of 3, different people that you can go after, they are the 3 core, if you will. They are the most common, if you will. Target audiences that agents in the business who do well go after in terms of phone prospecting. Okay, so not exhaustive list, but this is your core right here. So circle prospecting, right? Now, circle prospecting, also called geographic prospecting. It's a real simple concept. You pick an area, okay? You pick an area that you want to serve. And a lot of times that can be done by like zip code, right? And a radius around the zip code. But you pick an area and you say, hey, I want to be a help and a resource in this area. I want to generate some business from this area. And I'm going to just call individuals in this zip code. For example, who are homeowners. All right. Now, I'll say this as well, and this is not talked about a lot in many circles. Circle prospecting is, a well-known strategy when it comes to reaching out to potential sellers, homeowners. Okay. But you can have success as well in reaching out to potential buyers, renters, with the same strategy, right? Calling on renters versus homeowners. Those renters could be apartment dwellers, right? or they could be renting a single family home or otherwise. Okay? So circle prospecting, although it's normally associated a lot with the homeowner, the potential seller side, we know that there's opportunity to circle prospect buyers as well in a geographic area. Okay. Now, that's what circle prospecting is all about. Now, let me go a little bit further with that and take it. So you'll just get the list of those people in that zip code and start making calls, right? And we'll get into the whole script and all that, a little bit of the script here in just a little bit. But that's a list of people you can call in a particular zip code. Let me throw one more thing in there with this. Once you get going in the business, let's say you have a listing in a particular zip code that you work in. You could call people particularly around that listing. All right. And we do what's called, you can say, hey, homeowner, I'm selling a home. It's listed right now on 123 Mockingbird Lane. And you know, you're in the neighborhood, of course. And I was just wondering, were you interested in potentially selling? So the idea there is, right, you have a listing in a particular zip code that you serve. You're going to call other homeowners around that listing that you got and kind of say, hey, you see, I'm out here doing this. I'm helping this person list their home for sale. I can help you too. Then let's go a little bit further with that. Circle prospecting, that was called just sold, right? So let's stay with that same example. And let's say you sell that listing that I just mentioned. So now you could call around that, home that you just sold and say, hey, just sold this property at 123 Mockingbird Lane. Just wondering if you or someone you know might be interested in selling as well. So you can see how that can be very powerful, right? Because it kind of shows proof that, hey, you're active, you're in the business, you're doing things. And not only are you listing property, you're getting property sold. All right. So that's another form of, circle prospecting. So again, you can talk to, 2, 3, 4, 5 different people, and you might get a little variation on circle prospecting and how people define it and all of this. But at the end of the day, that's the nuts and bolts of it, right? You're calling to a geographic area, usually based on zip code, or it could just be a subdivision, wherever you want to call it, right? But you got a geographic area that's kind of carved out that you want to target, and you're going after potential sellers and that being homeowners. And like I told you before, you can even do that on the buyer side, potential buyer side as well, by reaching out to renters, whether in apartments or in single family homes or otherwise. Okay, that's circle prospecting. Kind of going out into the general, right? You see that? Going out into the general population. See, these people here, they haven't raised their hand. I want you to get this point across to you. They haven't raised their hand yet and said, hey, I definitely want to buy, or hey, I definitely want to sell. They haven't done that yet. You're reaching out to kind of see if they are potentially in the market. Now, that's different than these other two. Let's go down now to for sale by owners. Okay. Now, for sale by owners, FSBOs for short, as the name kind of suggests, these individuals here have decided that they're not going to get a real estate agent to help them sell their home. They're going to do it on their own. Okay. They're going to do it on their own. Now, for sale by owners, a lot of the times, the reason they're doing this is because they want to save on the commission. Okay, let's just get to that point very quickly. They want to save on the commission. And a lot of times also that comes with this is sometimes, not all the times, they don't really value the work that a real estate agent does. They tend to think that a real estate agent's job is pretty easy. I could do this myself. Why pay a big commission to a real estate agent? I don't see it where they do that much. I could sell it myself and save the commission. Okay, that's the mindset of a a lot of for sale by owners. Now, the reality of it is, though, the vast majority of them will not sell their home. And they'll end up going with an agent to help them sell. And that's why this is a good place to, try to find new business. Most of them will end up going with a real estate agent. Okay. And not only that, stats show that they'll end up getting, generally speaking, there's always exceptions to everything, but generally speaking, they'll end up getting more for their home than if they had sold it by themselves. Okay. So for sale by owners, these are people who have raised their hand. See, that's what makes this a good a niche to go after. They've raised their hand and said, I want to sell. So there's no question now about, do I want to sell or not? They want to sell. The only problem is at the very moment when you first approach them is they're trying to do it without an agent. But again, stats show though, and we know you'll eventually come around and you'll go with some agent. The vast majority of them will. Now, again, compare that again to circle prospecting as I just talked about. See, they didn't raise their hand. Okay. But what we do know, though, that there's always people out there in the marketplace that are thinking about selling, thinking about buying. Okay. Now, I'll draw this point out about circle prospecting. So even though they didn't raise their hand in circle prospecting, that doesn't mean that they're not a good source and a good target audience to go after, because there's more of them out there, and you'll be able to catch people earlier in the stage of their thinking about buying or thinking about selling. And circle prospecting can help actually build your database a lot wider, a lot bigger. And while it may be a slower way to get business, right? Circle prospecting, because you got to take people from, earlier in the process and they're thinking about buying. Circle prospecting, quite frankly, is the way that long term you'll build your database larger, and it'll pay off even better in the long run. Okay. So for sale by owners, they raise their hand, but they don't want to use an agent right now, but most of them will. Expired listings, right? So expired listings, these are people who they had their property listed for sale. They had their home listed for sale with an agent. Whether that, typically 6-month listing agreement, could be shorter in some cases, in some cases could be longer. It just depends. But typically, 6 months. All right. And for whatever reason, the home did not sell during the term of the listing agreement. Did not sell. So, of course, the homeowner is not happy. And for that matter, the agent is not happy either. Of course, nobody's happy when an expired listing takes place. However, that provides an opportunity for you to go after this market. Now, expired listings are some of the toughest kind of nuts to crack, if you will, of the 3 here on the list. They're a little bit more, just relatively speaking, more difficult to talk to because they're just really upset. Because what's happening, they're getting bombarded by a lot of real estate agents when their home doesn't sell and gets expired. They get flooded with calls, generally speaking, from real estate agents now looking to get the listing. And a lot of times they're frustrated. It's like, well, hey, where were all of you when I needed a buyer, right? Where were you then? You guys are flooding me now. But when my home was listed with, agent, number 1 over here, I didn't see all this activity. Okay, where were you there? But now you're blowing my phone up. Okay, so they're a very frustrated prospect. But nevertheless, most of them are going to relist the property with another agent, sometimes with the same agent, but a lot of times they're going to relist the property with another agent. So it's a great opportunity, right? Now look at the difference here. So expired listings are people who have raised their hand and said, I want to sell, just like with for sale by owners. But look at the big difference. Expired listings have said, I want to sell and I want to and are willing to use a real estate agent. So that's why expired listings are such a hot prospect, because they want to sell and that they're okay working with a real estate agent and paying the commission if they sell it. So that's why they're such a hot prospect. But that's also why a whole lot of real estate agents are going after those. So it's slim pickings because there's a lot of people going after what's, for the most part, relatively few number of leads. I'm not saying it's not worth going after them, but they're a highly competitive space there trying to go after expired listing. And you have to become, develop your skills there to deal with that prospect. So in terms of how easy it is to talk to these particular prospects, they're already ordered in the way that will be easiest to talk to. When you're doing circle prospecting and reaching out to people like I've described, you're going to be able to engage. It'll be like a lot more, you might say, easier call. You'll be able to engage a lot better, build rapport faster. You won't get as much of the, just the frustration because, again, they wasn't trying to sell or anything like that. So you can kind of get the relationship started a lot easier with circle prospecting. For sale by owners, again, they don't want to pay a realtor. And so those calls can be, like, hey, I'm good. I got this, perhaps, but we know they're going to eventually, kind of see the light and come to an agent. But that call, I'm not saying the engagement is bad or something that you should avoid, but it's a little bit more difficult call than a circle prospecting call. And then the tougher of all three of these situations, but like I said, expired listings, because these people are frustrated, upset, and quite frankly, in many cases, angry that their home didn't sell. And you have to be the one that comes in and says, hey, in a nutshell, I know your home didn't sell, but all agents are not the same. And let me show you how I do what I do and how that may be very well different from the previous agent that you had. And let me throw this in there. The number one reason that expired listings become expired listings in the first place, right? That homes don't sell. Generally speaking, right? You may find some exceptions. Like I said, there's always exceptions, right? But generally speaking, the reason it didn't sell is because the home was overpriced. Yeah, it's as simple as that. The homeowner doesn't want to hear that, right? And honestly, agents should be careful not to take overpriced listings. But sometimes you have agents who are just eager to just get a client. And they'll take these overpriced listings because they were persuaded by the homeowner to list it at this high price that the agent knew was way outside of what the market would bear. But because, again, sometimes agents just want to be in the game. I can't let this go, even though this thing is way overpriced. Okay, Mr. Seller or Mrs. Seller, I'll go ahead and list it for you for this price that I know is $10,000, $15,000 over, let's just say, over market value. Okay. So that's why homes really don't sell and become expired listings. That's the main reason. They're overpriced. Now, there are cases as well where it's possible maybe the home was priced relatively well, and then the marketing that was done by the agent was lackluster. That occurs too, right? The agent really didn't market the property at all. They just put it in the MLS and that was it, right? Something like that. That occurs. And that could be at play in many cases as well. But the price by far is the main reason. Overpriced, we're talking, is the main reason homes don't sell and become expired listings. Okay. Now let's talk about the script. So we know who we're going to call. We know the potential, groups that we could call to try to generate business from phone prospecting. But now when you make the call, you kind of got to know what to say, how to start, right? So a good script will ensure consistency of delivery. So when you call this person, then you call another person, then you call another person, a good script will, make sure that you're consistent with your delivery, that you have good engagement, and ultimately just good results, right? Trying to wing it is not a good strategy. Let me say that again. Trying to wing it on the phone is not a good strategy. Now, you shouldn't just be beholden to a script. Obviously you don't want to be robotic and all of that and just reading the script and just reading and talking at people. But yeah, that's why you got to practice your scripts and practice your delivery and all of that so that you're scripted, but it doesn't sound scripted to the prospect. Okay. But you definitely want to have a good script that kind of provides guidance to you on the call. Okay. Let's talk about the dollar. Right. So we've talked about the list, right? You got to have a list. Then we talked about the script. Okay. We just went over that a little bit. But now you got to have a dollar to make the calls. Now, like with most things, there's a whole lot of options out there, right? But I'm giving you on the screen here 3 of the most popular dollars on the market that are used for agents who choose to do phone prospecting as a lead generation method. Mojo Dollar, very popular. RedX is another popular dollar, and Vulcan 7, another very popular dollar. Again, there are others that are not on this list. If you did a Google search, right, you could find many, many more. But you will find that these 3, I would submit to you, are probably the top 3 that you'll find that real estate agents are using. Again, okay? All right, Mojo, RedX, and Vulcan 7. Now, here's the thing, and we'll just touch on this just a little bit. The big idea behind these dollars is you don't have to manually dial, okay? So like I mentioned earlier to you, if you had to do it, get a list of people to call and just use your cell phone and punch the numbers in your cell phone and make the call. If that's what you had to do, say for financial reasons or what have you, then I say do it. Use whatever resources you have at your disposal. But if you can afford to, use a dollar, which would be most beneficial, then definitely do that. Mojo is a great one. Mojo, you can dial anywhere from 1 line up to like 3. What I mean by that is you can actually make calls to prospects 3 at a time, 2 at a time, or 1 at a time. And what it does, it'll connect you to only one person, right? Now you only get connected to one person. And then, the other 2, basically what the system will do, you pre-record a message that tells them you'll call them back, essentially. And the system will automatically dial them back once you're done talking to the person that you're on the phone with. But with Mojo, you can dial, up to 3 lines, at least currently. And RedX, you can dial, I'm pretty sure, multiple lines there as well. And again, sometimes these services change, how they do what they do too, okay? Vulcan 7, typically a single line dialer. But again, these things could change, right? So, like everything, you always have to kind of just stay up to date with, some of these changes that these dials could have. But the point is this: whether it's 1 line, whether it's 2 lines, or whether it's 3 lines, or even more, there are dials out there that dial even more than 3 lines at a time. But again, the point is they make the call for you. No hand dialing is needed. The software, the dialing software, right, will make the call because the list of the FSBOs, the list of the expireds, right, the list of, those circle prospecting sellers or buyers, potential sellers or buyers, those lists are in the system, in the dialing system, imported into the dialing system. And then from there, they can be automatically dialed without you, dialing the number manually. Okay. And these systems, again, give you a whole lot more other tools. Most of these systems have a CRM of their own, kind of just built in. Now, they're not usually as robust as a standalone real estate CRM that other companies would provide, but most of your dialing software comes with its own, at least, core basic CRM, where you wouldn't necessarily have to get a separate CRM to store your contacts information and your clients' information, et cetera. All right. They normally come with something like that. But the big takeaway I want you to get from here is, if you had to dial manually and you want to do phone prospecting, I say do it if that's what you had to do. But ideally, you want to operate with one of these dialers. Let's talk about CRM. So again, we talked about list, we talked about script, now we talk about the dialer. Now CRM, the database where you store your information. Now, I just mentioned most of your dialing software comes with its own version of its own CRM. That's really, in many cases, all you'll need. But there is a market out there for sure of standalone real estate CRMs. That's all they do, is their whole business is it's a real estate CRM. And most of those usually going to have a lot more robust features than, say, a dialing software that has a CRM component. Okay. But I can tell you from my own personal experience, what I found personally now, I found that the CRM that comes with the dialer is really plenty enough for most agents. And you wouldn't even have to spend the extra money on, say, a top producer here. That's a CRM, a real estate CRM. Follow Up Boss is another popular one. Pipedrive is another popular one. Okay. And all these CRMs here have their advantages and disadvantages, guys. You can go down the feature list. Many of them do many of the same things. And now let me use this. Let me take this moment here to say this. Don't get so caught up in which software is the absolute best versus is that one better? This is the most best. I just use that terminology that way. Don't get so caught up with that to the extent that you confuse and overwhelm yourself and you do nothing. See, that's what I don't want you to do. Because the reality of it is, you could flip a coin and just flip a few coins or what have you, and just pick one. If you can afford it, it works in your budget, et cetera, and you wanted to do, say, for example, a standalone CRM, and you wanted to integrate that CRM, say, with the dialer, because that a lot of people do that. They say, well, the dialing software has a CRM, yeah, but it's kind of basic, and I want something more than that with some more bells and whistles. Okay, no problem. It's your call. And then most of those dialing softwares allow you to integrate, with them, so that CRM and that dialer software can kind of talk to each other. You can kind of tie them together. Okay, no problem. My point to you is, I want to stress, though, don't get so caught up in spending so much time. You should compare and all of that, of course, but don't spend so much time trying to see, well, who is the absolute best. If you choose either one of these, all of them have the core features and the basic functionality that's going to do fine for you. Either one of these CRMs would do just fine for you. So I just want to stress that. Like, sometimes we get caught up with which one is the absolute best. They all have the basic core functions. They have more about them that are alike, is what I'm trying to say, than are different, to be honest with you. The difference between these is really immaterial in many cases, guys. 80% of the stuff they do is about the same, and you might have 20% that where they differentiate themselves. Okay, you get my point. I'll move on from that, but I'm just saying, don't get caught up with that. And like I said from the beginning, right? This is not an exhaustive list. My point is, though, is just to give you in all these areas, just give you some of the main ones that are out there. And that's not to say the one that your brokerage uses is no good. Like I just said, I'm sure it will work too. Use it and get to going. Okay. Just don't sit by, twiddling your thumbs, trying to find the perfect this. What's the perfect CRM? Which one is the perfect dollar? Okay. I want the perfect. Perfect doesn't exist. Perfect doesn't exist and is not necessary. I'm going to move on, guys. And I kind of got on my soapbox, but I've just seen it too many times. We get caught up on stuff that really doesn't matter. Here's what really matters with phone prospecting. Get started. That's what matters. Yeah, sometimes we do all this, we worry about all the other things, but we won't do the main thing. What's the main thing? Get started. Get a list. Get a script. Get a dollar. Get a CRM. Pick one. And we'll go now to the calendar, our last piece here before we close up. But just get one and then commit to getting on the phones consistently every day for 2 hours. You do that, I can promise you, I don't care which one of the CRMs you use or which one of the dollars they're all going to allow you to make the call. And that's what matters. Okay. I beat that horse and he's really dead now. But I get real passionate about that because it's the work that needs to be done. That's going to be the differentiator. It's going to be the difference maker in your business. It's making the calls. You give me 2 agents. One agent is using Mojo, and the other agent is using Vulcan. Or give me 3 agents. The other one is using RedX or what have you, right? And one is using the Top Producer, and one is using Follow Up Boss, and one is using Pipedriver CRM integrated, and one is using Wise Agent, and any other one you want. If both of those agents commit to calling 2 hours a day consistently and practice their scripts and they're getting better and developing their skills, both of those agents will be successful, even though they utilize different software, period. Okay. Let's move on now to the calendar. Like I mentioned earlier, when you make contact with a prospect, they're not going to be ready, generally speaking, to do business with you on the first call. They were not just sitting there waiting on you to call and like, oh yeah, I'm glad you called. I was just thinking about you. I'm ready to go. It's not going to happen that way, generally speaking. Yeah, every now and then, every blue moon, you might stumble upon someone who is that hot, who is like, yeah, I'm ready to go. Come on by. Let's do this. Okay, every blue moon. But I wouldn't build my business on blue moon scenarios. Okay. The reality of it is, our philosophy at least, we know real estate is about relationships. Always has been and always will be. Real estate is about relationships. So you make the outbound call to let them know who you are. 1, provide some value. Let them know that you're going to be a resource to them, and that you're not chasing commissions, and that you understand really that this is just the beginning of the relationship. I'm going to have to follow up, continue to provide you with value, continue to be a resource to you until you're ready. Yeah, let me say it like this. You're not going to force anyone into buying a home. You're not going to force anyone into selling a home when they don't want to. See, and hopefully by me letting you know that, it can kind of lower the pressure on yourself. There is no special, beautiful, magical language that you're just going to put people in a trance and you're going to call them and they had no desire to sell, and you're going to be so smooth and so magical with your words, and you're just going to be just making people move to sell when they had no desire to. You're going to just make them buy when they had no desire to. You're setting yourself up for failure and frustration. That's not how this works. What we're doing is we're trying to build a relationship, and we're trying to seek out desire. If anything, we're trying to seek out those who have the desire to buy, seek out those who have the desire to sell. And if not now, at some point in the future. And if you're playing the long game, if you're in this for the right reasons, if you're in here to really help people and in it for the long term, that should be okay with you. But, you know, and I'm not saying this is anybody's case here, but if you're in it for the, just if you're all money motivated, if your every thought and the reason you got in this business is all money, commission, and I tell you, we call it commission breath, so to speak, in the industry. People can smell that a mile away, that you're all about commissions. And I can tell you, if that's your approach to this business, you won't make it. You won't make it because people will see it. They will see it. They will see it. They will see it. And you won't make it. So this business takes time to build. And there's no shortcuts. Okay. All right. So when it comes to a calendar, because we got to follow up and continue building a relationship. Now, a real simple, powerful, free calendar is Google Calendar, guys. Keep it real simple. If you had to use a calendar that's outside of a dollar software, that is, because like I said before, just like a dollar software has a basic CRM in it for most of them also are going to have a calendar feature for you to set your follow-up calls right within the software itself. So you really don't have to go outside of the software you're using to book follow-up calls on a calendar. But if you did, I just recommend Google Calendar. It's simple as that, guys. Yeah, there are other ones out there, but Google Calendar by and large and by far is one of the best free calendars on the market, period. Particularly if you're deciding to make calls not from a dollar software, from your cell phone or from your home phone or what have you. Then you might want to have Google Calendar in conjunction with that, and you're just doing the best you can with that. But again, like I mentioned before, if you can afford the dollar software, that's definitely what you want to do because it's going to bring in so much more efficiency. I mean, just tremendous. It's night and day. And that dollar software, again, 9.9 times out of 10 is going to have a calendar feature for you to set your follow-up appointments and get reminded when it's time, to make those follow-up calls so you don't forget. That's all baked into the cake in any good dollar software. Okay. But like I said, I'm always trying to give you options. That's why I said, hey, if you need to do a Google Calendar in conjunction with your cell phone because you can't afford the dollar, but do that. You'll notice I'm all about getting going, get the work in, put the work in. Everything works if you work. That's one of my things I love to say. A lot of people ask the question, Damian, well, does this work? Or does that method work? Or does it? Hey, I'm telling you what I found. The answer is usually yes, if you'll work. See, a lot of the times the question is not whether this software will work or would that work or that strategy work. Yes, it'll work. The question is, will you put in the work? And will you put in the work long enough to see the results? And that's another thing. Sometimes people will start the work. They'll start phone prospecting, but they'll stop it way too soon. And then say, perhaps, oh, that doesn't work. No. It works. It's worked for many before you, will work for many after you. You didn't work. You didn't stay consistent enough. You didn't give it time to work. You wanted it quick commission. You wanted it too fast. And the reality of it is you have to build here. And if you build the right way, though, what a reward you'll get from your efforts.
Join us for a free webinar and learn the 3 core skills to get more clients and generate more income in your real estate business. See link in the description or go to myrealestatetutor.com/training.